Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for 7th September and it is meant for class 11th biology students. We were talking about body fluids, various body fluids and their circulation, and in particular we were talking about the medium of flow is blood, its components, and how the pumping station, main pumping station, heart, has got its physiology, has got its anatomy. And once the blood flows in the heart, then from the heart it pumps to different parts of the body. From different parts of the body, blood is again pumped back. So when the blood is to be pumped from the heart, there has to be certain pressures. So this is understood. The anatomy of heart can be better understood with a mechanism called ECG, electrocardiography. So many times in hospitals you must have seen such a graphs, and let's understand what this is. So ECG is a 3-letter acronym for E for electro, C for cardio, G for graphy. Electrocardiography. The word is derived from electro, that is Greek for electricity, cardio for heart, and graph is to write. So that's how the electrocardiography has come. So it is a transthoracic interpretation of the electrical activity of the heart over the time captured and externally recorded by skin electrodes. This is what the use of this ECG. The device used to produce this non-invasive, no surgery. We are not doing any surgery. Some electrodes are kept on our skin at different places on the chest. Okay, and that gives a record. And that record is electrocardiograph. And this recording will be in the form of a graph. So ECG is the gold standard for the non-invasive diagnosis of cardiac diseases and may occasionally be the only marker for the presence of heart diseases. So that is the basic aim. We can understand if there is anything wrong with the anatomy and functioning of heart. What are the indications of ECG? Gold standard for diagnosis of cardiac arrhythmias, anything defect, helps to detect electrolyte disturbances, whether hyper or hypokalemia, allows for detection of conduction of abnormalities, any abnormalities is there by the heart, and screening tool for ischemic heart disease during stress tests, helpful with non-cardiac diseases, example pulmonary embolism or hypothermia. And remember, it is only a tool, it's not a treatment, right? ECG is only a tool, it's not a treatment. Now these are the various improvements, evolutions in the ECG machine. 1872, Alexander Muhat, and it starts off, and we go to the latest, that is in 1924, William Athwan wins the Nobel Prize for, look at this, thanks to him, Nobel Prize for inventing the electrocardiograph. And he is the gentleman. Here is the gentleman. Look at him. So he is the man, Athwan. So this is depicting recording his first ECG in 1902 by placing limbs in buckets of conducting solutions. And then basic electrophysiology. So physiological properties of myocardial cell. First, automaticity, ability to initiate an impulse. Impulse is of course a flow of current. Impulse. Excitability, ability to respond a stimulus which initiates something. Conductivity, ability to transmit an impulse. And contractility, ability to respond with the pumping action. So we have got depolarization and repolarization. You can remember it as a repolarization means relaxation, and depolarization means contraction. Thus you remember this, that much is enough. So The depolarization and repolarization of cardiac cell generates action potential. ECG is the composite representation of action potential of the cardiac cell. So, electrical conduction system of the heart. The electrical discharge for each cardiac cycle normally starts in a special area of the right auricle. Remember, starting point is right auricle, and that is SA node, sinoatrial node. You must remember, starting point is SA node. Depolarization means contraction, then spreads through the auricular muscle fibers. There is a deadly delay while the depolarization spreads through another special area in the auricle. What is that? AV node, atrioventricular or auriculoventricular node. So first one is SA node and second one is AV node, remember. And the depolarization is only going on. Thereafter, the electrical discharge travels very rapidly down specialized conduction tissue, and first a single pathway. Remember, there is a muscle, special muscle, bundle of his, which then divides into septum between the ventricles, between right ventricle and left ventricle. Recollect the diagram? You got a septum. So that leads to right and left bundle branches. Now you can see in the diagram, within the ventricular mass, conduction spreads somewhat more slowly through specialized tissue called Purkinje fibers. Where are those? Here. These are the Purkinje fibers. So it enters here. So you got SA node, then AV node, then septum, and then Purkinje fibers. This is how. And of course, we should not forget in between bundle of His. So you got a SA node, which acts as pacemaker, AV node, then bundle of His, then septum, then Purkinje fibers. So something like this. The path is SA node, AV node to bundle of His to septum, septum to Purkinje fibers. So this is how the depolarization starts. So conduction of speed of cardiac tissue. See, everything has got a timing. That we can measure. SA node 0.05 minutes per seconds, and atrial pathway is 1. AV node is 0.05 and bundle of His is 0.05. Purkinje fibers, it's 4 meters per second. Ventricular muscle is 1. So that means everything has got a timing, and if there is a change in the timing, it indicates that there is something problematic. Conduction of the impulse. Normal resting membrane potential is 90 MV. If the potential rises from minus 90 to 0, then this excites further rise of the potential called action potential. The action potential is transmitted throughout the cell and forms an impulse. So what is basically required? Action potential. And the action potential will lead to impulse. During the rise of the potential, the membrane becomes permeable to sodium ions, Na+, and the potential rises to a positive direction. This phenomenon is called depolarization. So remember, whenever there is a depolarization, muscle contraction takes place, and contraction is possible only when Na+ is present, sodium ions. This is the connection. And the sodium channels close, and there is rapid diffusion of K+ ions, potassium ions. Here, there, sodium, here, K+ ions, into the exterior, re-establishing resting membrane potential. And this is called, of course, repolarization. So there are two, depolarization and repolarization. For depolarization, remember, it's contraction and sodium. Repolarization, it is relaxation and K+ ions. So depolarization is followed by, as I said, muscle contraction, and repolarization is followed by muscle relaxation. This is how you must remember. And how this happens, this is the diagram. You can see the movement of Na plus sodium and K+. You can see the movement of the membrane, interior to exterior, exterior to interior, and you can see the action potential with timing. So This is depicting a mechanism of depolarization and repolarization. This is depolarization, this is repolarization, and finally the purpose of this is to acquire ionic balance. And what is this exactly? The ECG look like? The ECG looks like this. So the adjacent figure shows the normal sinus rhythm. A normal sinus rhythm comprises the following: P waves. Where is the P wave? This is the P wave. So you can have this P wave. Denotes atrial depolarization. Atrial means auricle. Auricular depolarization means constriction of auriculars. Electrical vector is directed from SA node towards the AV node. So if there is any problem between SA node to AV node within the auricles, this P ECG will not depict the P like this. There will be distortion. So the cardiologist understands that there is some problem in the P wave, and it is directly indicating there is something in depolarization and there is some problem with SA node or AV node. And QRS complex. See this Q, this is Q, and R and S. There is an upward wave. So QRS complex denotes depolarization of ventricles. See, if P is depicting auricles, this is depicting ventricles. And this is depolarization, whereas this is repolarization. And T wave, this is T wave, denotes repolarization of the ventricles. Repolarization of the ventricles. Okay, let me, I think I jumped over. Okay, yeah, I think these are not essential for us. Yes, we come back. Yes, we are here. So we have got this T waves. We were talking about the T waves. It denotes repolarization or recovery of the ventricles. The interval from the beginning of the QRS complex, this QRS complex, to the apex of the T wave is referred as absolute refractory period. This absolute refractory period. The last half of the T wave is referred to as relative refractory period. So as depicted in the picture, we have got some waves and intervals. PR interval. You can see here, this is PR interval. Beginning of the P wave to the beginning of the QRS complex, that is PR. ST segment connects, what is ST segment? Where is it? Yes, here it is. ST segment connects the QRS complex and the T wave. And then you got another QT interval. Where is it? This blue one, QT interval. It's the beginning of the QRS complex to the end of the T wave. So we have got three intervals: PR interval, ST segment, and QT interval. So any distortions in this will indicate to the cardiologist that there is something wrong, and he will be in a position to exactly say whether the defect is in auricle, ventricle, left ventricle, or SA node, AV node, like that. So a segment is a straight line connecting two waves. An interval comprises at least two wave plus the connecting straight line. You can see PR interval, 12 to 20 seconds timing also is given. PR segment is a line, remember, and interval has got a wave plus straight line. And QRS width, of course, you can see here, and QT interval with seconds, 35 to 45 seconds, ST segment, T wave, and of course U wave. There's U wave also. Okay, and there is something called J point. Where is the J point? J point is the point at which QRS, this is QRS complex, okay, meets ST wave. This is ST wave, no? This is wave. So this is the J point. It is an isoelectric point, and its importance lies in the fact that ST segment elevation is measured with respect to it. ST segment elevation, this one, this and this, ST elevation. So that is what. And what is the importance of this? And J wave and U wave, this is U wave. These are the two abnormal waves that may be seen sometime in the ECG recordings. And J wave, also known as camel hump sign or late delta wave, Hadcock junction, And hypothalamic wave, prominent J wave, K wave, H wave or current of injury. It indicates injury to the heart. And the positive deflections occurring at the junction between the QRS and ST. Observed in people suffering from, what does it indicate? J wave, hypothermia, with a temperature of less than 32 degrees C. And what about U wave? It is typically small and by definition follows the T wave. Prominent U waves are most often seen in hypokalemia, but may be present in hypercalcemia and thyrotoxicosis. So these are all the various indications that will do. And you must have seen that ECG will be taken on a graph sheet like this. Okay, you can see the J point here, and J wave. You can see the abnormalities that shows hypothalamic individual. And similarly, you can see the U wave. Look at that. The arrow marks represents the U wave here, U wave here, U wave here. And if there is U wave, that shows that person has got hypokalemic patient. So this is how the ECG helps us to detect the various abnormalities, and we can take certain precautions before it comes to point of no return. So it is better always we go for the ECG whenever there is some sort of uneasiness. So